In today's podcast, I'd like to talk a little bit about respiration and go over the respiration notes. First, it's important to understand that respiration is more than just breathing. First of all, breathing is the exchange of gases, specifically oxygen and carbon dioxide, between the atmosphere and the lungs. When we talk about respiration, we're talking about it is the exchange of gases between the lungs and the atmosphere, along with the oxidation of food to release energy, specifically ATP. And so you'll need to draw figure 7.1 on page 64 and add that to your notes. So breathing and respiration, while respiration includes breathing, it's much more than that. It's the oxidation of food, glucose, to release energy, which is ATP or acetylene triphosphate. The lungs are the main respiratory organ. It is found in the chest cavity and is protected by the rib cage and a double-layered membrane called the pleura. The space between the pleural membrane is filled with pleural fluid, which protects the lungs from shocks and injuries, again, along with the rib cage. So the rib cage and the pleura both combine to help protect the lungs, which are the main respiratory organ. The lungs, each lung is pinkish in color and cone in shape. The left lung is divided into 2 lobes, and the right is divided into 3. So the right lung is slightly larger than the left lung. The pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. The 2 masses of soft tissue, called the tonsils and the adenoids, are found here in the pharynx. These tissues help filter the incoming air and protect the body from microbes. The pharynx, which is also called the voice box, the larynx opens up into the larynx through a narrow slit called the glottis. The glottis is protected by a cartilaginous flap called the epiglottis. The epiglottis closes over the glottis when food is being swallowed, thus preventing food from entering the trachea. Because remember, the pharynx is a common passage for the food and air, so both food and air are coming through the pharynx. And that epiglottis is going to prevent food and water from entering the trachea, which continues on to the lungs. The pharynx protrudes in the neck region as the Adam's apple. The vocal cords are 2 folds of ligaments that stretch over the top of the opening of the larynx. When air is forced over these cords, sound is produced. So that allows you to speak. In combination with the air passing over the vocal cords, it also involves your lips, your teeth, your tongue. All those help combine to allow you to speak. The tonsils, again, are 2 clumps of tissue on each side of the throat, embedded in a pocket at the side of the palate or the roof of the mouth. The adenoids are a small clump found at the back of the nose of the nasopharyngeal area. The trachea is the air tube that is found in the chest region and continues on to the lungs. It divides into 2 bronchi, which then enter the lungs at its side. The trachea and the bronchi are both supported by C-shaped cartilage, which keep them dilated, so it keeps them open. If the trachea and the bronchi did not have these cartilaginous rings, they would collapse. So these cartilaginous rings are both important and functional for keeping the trachea dilated. The bronchi At the end of the bronchi are balloon-shaped structures called air sacs or alveoli. Each alveolus has a very thin wall and richly supplied with blood vessels. The thin walls have a large surface area for effective exchange of gases, which happens through diffusion, which, remember, diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of high concentration to low concentration. We talked a little bit about osmosis and how that differs. Remember that osmosis is movement of water across a membrane, where diffusion is movement of everything else. So because this is a movement of a gas across a membrane, it is simply diffusion, not osmosis. Osmosis is only water across a membrane, and so this is air across a membrane, so it's just diffusion. We also wanted to talk a little bit about smoking and the dangers of smoking with regard to respiration. Tobacco contains a poisonous substance called nicotine, and this is absorbed into the body during smoking or chewing. Nicotine can affect the nervous system, the digestive system, the lungs, and prolonged smoking can damage the tender alveoli membranes inside of the lungs, and can cause cancer, and so should be strongly avoided. Let's talk about the mechanism of respiration. First of all, it's important to understand it occurs in two stages. There's the inhalation and exhalation. So let's first of all talk about inhalation. The muscles between the ribs contract. So the intercostal muscles contract on the rib cage. That moves the rib cage upwards and outwards. Simultaneously, the muscle of the diaphragm is also contracted, and that pulls it down, pulls the diaphragm down, making it flat. As a result, the volume of the chest cavity increases and the pressure decreases. So again, the volume of the chest increases. So as volume increases, the pressure decreases, and that will pull air into the lungs. So the outside air rushes in to fill those lungs, and so basically the passage of air into the lungs is as follows: the external nostrils, then the internal nostrils, the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, into the lungs, the bronchioles, and then into the air sacs. The exchange of gases actually takes place at the site of the alveoli, and again it occurs by diffusion, and so you'll want to draw figure 7.3 on page 66 of your book. And basically what you're going to see there is a detailed diagram of the gas exchange between the alveoli and the bloodstream. And you can see a picture of that here. You can see that I have a blood vessel right here, and I have the exchange of gas. So the oxygen, you see, the O2 is going into the bloodstream, and the CO2 is coming out of the bloodstream, going into that alveoli to be removed. On the exhalation, we have basically the reverse happening. So the intercostal muscles relax, causing the rib cage to move down and inward. Simultaneously, the muscles of the diaphragm relax, causing the diaphragm to become more dome-shaped, so it rises back up. And when that happens, the changes of the volume cavity, the volume decreases and the pressure increases, causing that air to be pushed out. You'll want to draw these diagrams. Draw diagram 7.4 on page 67 of your book, which shows the breathing in diagram, the inhalation. Again, chest expands up, diaphragm goes down, causes the pressure to the volume to increase and pressure to decrease, so the air comes in. And then on the exhale, same exact opposite happens. The chest cavity relax, causing the rib cage to move up and out. The diaphragm relaxes, causing it to move up, and that air is then pushed out. And the passageway is the exact opposite. So the air sacs goes to the bronchii, lungs, bronchioles, lungs, bronchii, trachea, larynx, pharynx, internostril, external nostril. So that's a quick little about 10-minute review of the notes. And I'll be sure to make these available on my webpage. Be sure to check back for some additional updates in the respiration section of my teacher webpage. Thank you so much.